They threw her out on the street to fund her genius sister's tuition. They told her she was worthless, a failure, a financial burden. But they forgot one simple, brutal rule of the universe: the wheel always turns. Imagine the look on their faces when the daughter they discarded returns, not to beg for a room, but to sign the deed as their new landlord. We have all felt it, stinging injustice when favoritism crushes a good soul, leaving you to wonder if karma is just a fairy tale. It makes you lose faith in humanity, doesn't it? But today, we are restoring that faith. This is the story of Madelaine, the dumb twin who was erased from her family's history, and Patrick, the ruthless tycoon who thought he was untouchable until he met the one thing money couldn't buy: integrity. Prepare yourself. You are about to witness a journey that goes from the cold pavement of homelessness to the heated boardrooms of power. We are talking about heartbreaking betrayal, a smart sister whose lies unravel a family, and a comeback so satisfying it will give you chills. This isn't just a story about getting rich, it's about getting even with kindness. If you believe that the underdog deserves their day in the sun, then you have found your tribe. Hit that subscribe button to join our community of survivors, smash the like button if you are ready for justice to be served, and let's dive into the story of how the disappointment became the boss. In the suffocating atmosphere of the Woody household, a toxic family drama played out daily, with Madelaine cast as the tragic extra. While her identical twin sister was paraded around like a prize pony, soaking up every ounce of parental favoritism, Madelaine was treated like a regrettable clerical error. It wasn't just that she lacked her sister's academic prowess, it was that she existed in a home where love was a currency, and she was perpetually bankrupt. You know the type of parents I mean, the ones who frame report cards but ignore the child holding them. In this cruel game of smart versus dumb, Madelaine was constantly humiliated, forced to smile while her sister's achievements were weaponized against her at every family dinner. Her parents made no secret of their disappointment, treating the family inheritance, not just the money, but the legacy, as something reserved exclusively for the worthy child. Madelaine felt the weight of this exclusion in her bones, a constant reminder that she was the defective spare. It's a gut-wrenching feeling, being a stranger in your own home, isn't it? She walked on eggshells, terrified of triggering another lecture about her inadequacy, while planting the deep, bitter seeds of a future revenge she couldn't yet imagine. The narrative was set: she was the failure, and her sister was the golden child, a dynamic that seemed carved in stone. Meanwhile, across the glittering skyline of the city, Patrick Murray reigned supreme as a ruthless real estate tycoon. As the CEO of Murray Holdings, he was a man who viewed empathy as a weakness and profit as the only religion worth practicing. His life was the ultimate success story, a testament to cold, hard ambition, but it was devoid of any warmth. He moved through the world with the arrogance of a man who had never been told no, completely unaware of the rich man-poor woman dynamic that destiny was quietly orchestrating for him. To Patrick, people were merely assets or liabilities, and he liquidated the latter without a second thought. Patrick was unstoppable in the boardroom, a shark in a tailored suit who devoured competitors for sport. He didn't have time for heart-touching stories or the struggles of an underdog. If you couldn't keep up, you deserved to be left behind. It's chilling how money can insulate a person from reality, creating a bubble where consequences don't exist. He had surrounded himself with sycophants who fed his ego, reinforcing his belief that he was untouchable. But what Patrick didn't realize was that his emotional armor was brittle, and the higher he climbed, the harder the eventual fall would be when karma finally decided to collect its debt. It seems shocking that two such disparate lives could ever intersect, but the universe loves a good paradox. While Madelaine was fighting to prove her true worth to parents who were legally blind to her value, Patrick was busy proving that a man could have everything and still be empty. They were on a collision course fueled by desperation and arrogance. Madelaine needed a miracle to escape her hell, and Patrick needed a disaster to find his soul. It's often in the darkest moments that the light of change begins to flicker, even if we are too blinded by our own pain to see it. The pressure on Madelaine was mounting as the final exams approached, the ultimate test that would seal her fate. Her parents had staked everything on her twin's success, leaving Madelaine with a crushing sense of regret for a life she hadn't even lived yet. She knew, deep down, that vindication would only come if she broke free, but the chains of familial guilt are the hardest to sever. She was drowning in expectations, gasping for air, while Patrick sat high in his tower, breathing the thin air of superiority. Neither of them knew that the clock was ticking down to a moment that would shatter their worlds completely. As the exam results loomed, the stage was set for a betrayal that would leave scars for a lifetime. The smart twin was confident, the parents were expectant, and Madelaine was terrified, sensing that her time in the family home was running out. This wasn't just about grades anymore, it was an eviction notice for her heart. The silence before the storm is always the loudest, isn't it? Madelaine was about to be pushed to the edge of the abyss, unaware that this fall was necessary for her to eventually rise as a tycoon herself. The loop was opening, and the first domino was about to fall. The day the exam results arrived was the day the family drama reached its boiling point, transforming the house into a courtroom where Madelaine was already guilty. Her hands trembled as she opened the envelope, the paper feeling heavy with the weight of her parents' expectations, only to reveal a score that fell just short of their impossible standards. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the triumphant shriek of the twin sister, whose perfect marks were immediately plastered on the fridge like a holy scripture. It wasn't just a failure in the brutal logic of smart versus dumb, it was a confirmation of Madelaine's obsolescence. Her parents didn't yell, they simply looked at her with a chilling, detached finality, as if she were a bad investment they were finally writing off. The decision was swift and ruthless, delivered with the cold efficiency of a corporate downsizing rather than a parental intervention. They explicitly stated that the family's resources were finite and would henceforth be funneled entirely into the genius child's university tuition. Madelaine wasn't just grounded, she was evicted, her bags packed before she could even process the shocking turn of events.
Standing on the porch, watching the door close on her childhood, she realized that favoritism had evolved into total abandonment. It's a terrifying moment when the safety net vanishes, isn't it? She was being discarded to ensure the success story of her sister, left to navigate a world she wasn't prepared for, cast out with nothing but a suitcase and a crushed spirit. Madelaine felt the stinging rain of humiliated pride. Her parents had made their choice clear. They were betting on the thoroughbred and sending the workhorse to the glue factory. This wasn't just about money, it was a declaration that her true worth was zero in their eyes. She walked away from the only home she had ever known, the sound of her sister's celebratory laughter echoing in her ears like a cruel soundtrack. It's moments like these that break people or forge them into something unstoppable, though at that moment, she felt only the break. The narrative of rich man, poor woman usually starts with a chance meeting, but for Madelaine, it started with homelessness and hunger. She had been stripped of her inheritance, her name, and her dignity, forcing her to confront the harsh reality of survival. The regret she felt wasn't for failing the exam, but for ever believing that her parents' love was unconditional. She was an underdog in the truest sense, wandering the city streets while her family toasted to a future that didn't include her. But destiny has a way of clearing the path for those who have nothing left to lose, even if that path looks like a dead end. As she shivered through that first night, Madelaine vowed that she would not be the victim of this story forever. The pain of rejection is a potent fuel, and while her sister was being pampered, Madelaine was developing a thick skin that no classroom could teach. Karma was taking notes, observing the cruelty of the parents and the arrogance of the twin. It's hard to imagine now, but this absolute low point was a foundation for her future empire. Sometimes, you have to be completely dismantled before you can be rebuilt into something stronger, something that can withstand the storms of a tycoon's life. The disparity was sickening. Her sister was shopping for dorm decor, while Madelaine was counting coins for a sandwich. The smart versus dumb label had ruined her life, yet she possessed a resilience her genius sister lacked entirely. She was learning the hard way that book smarts don't save you when the roof is taken from over your head. This was the crucible, the fire that would burn away the softness and leave only steel. Her parents thought they were cutting off a dead limb, but they were actually pruning a vine that would grow to strangle their expectations. By the time dawn broke, Madelaine was no longer the daughter who sought approval. She was a survivor seeking a lifeline. She dried her tears, fixed her posture, and stepped into morning fog, ready to take whatever scraps the world would throw at her. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she wasn't going back. The looping irony of life was just beginning to spin, and while she was currently on the bottom, the wheel was destined to turn. She was about to walk into the lion's den, not as a conqueror, but as a cleaner. Destitute and running on fumes, Madelaine's search for survival led her to the towering glass fortress of Murray Holdings. It was a place where success story fantasies were manufactured, but for her, it was just a place to scrub floors. She landed a cleaning job, trading her dignity for a minimum wage paycheck, becoming invisible in a building full of people who thought they ruled the world. Patrick Murray, the tycoon and CEO, walked these halls like a god, his presence demanding absolute silence and submission. To him, the cleaning staff were part of the furniture necessary, but unworthy of eye contact. One afternoon, exhausted and distracted by the gnawing hunger in her stomach, Madelaine accidentally knocked over a waste bin near the executive elevator. The sound was like a gunshot in the hushed corridor. Patrick, who was passing by, stopped dead in his tracks. He didn't offer help instead. He unleashed a cold, biting scolding that displayed his utter lack of empathy. He berated her for her clumsiness, treating a simple mistake as a personal insult to his empire. It was a classic display of the rich man, poor woman divide him in his Italian suit, her in a stained uniform, the power dynamic painfully skewed. Madelaine stood there, humiliated, absorbing his verbal abuse while trying to hold back tears. She wanted to scream, to tell him about her smart versus dumb trauma, about being kicked out, about her true worth, but she swallowed her pride. She needed this job. Patrick's arrogance was suffocating. He saw her not as a human being, but as a malfunction in his perfect machine. It's a painful scene to witness, isn't it? When someone with everything punches down on someone with nothing. But even in her silence, there was a spark in her eyes that Patrick failed to notice, see a defiance that refused to be extinguished. This encounter cemented Patrick's image as the heartless villain in her story, a man who had everything but understood nothing. He walked away dusting off his impeccable jacket, leaving Madelaine to clean up the mess on her knees. The underdog is often kicked when they are down, and this was Madelaine's lowest moment in the corporate world. Yet, as she scrubbed, a strange resolve settled in her heart. She wasn't just cleaning floors, she was observing, listening, and learning the rhythm of the beast she was inside. Destiny had placed her here for a reason, even if that reason currently felt like punishment. Patrick returned to his penthouse office, forgetting her existence the moment the elevator doors closed. He was unstoppable, or so he thought, unaware that the girl he just humiliated possessed a perspective he desperately lacked. It's ironic how the people we dismiss are often the ones holding the keys to our salvation. Karma was quietly arranging the chess pieces, positioning the pawn to save the king. Madelaine wiped her face, finished her shift, and vowed that one day he would look her in the eye with respect, not disdain. The cleaning job became her university. While mopping the boardroom, she listened to strategies while emptying bins. She read discarded memos. She was absorbing the business world through osmosis, her dumb label peeling away with every layer of corporate grime she scrubbed. Patrick thought he had hired a janitor, but he had accidentally admitted a spy in a house of success. The heart-touching part of this struggle is her quiet dignity in the face of such arrogance. She was building a foundation of knowledge that no exam could measure. As days turned into weeks, the distance between them remained vast, but the proximity was dangerous. Patrick was growing complacent in his ivory tower, while Madelaine was getting sharper on the ground floor. She was a ghost in the machine, the silent observer of his triumphs and his looming failures. And soon, the CEO would face a problem that money couldn't fix, a crisis that would require him to look down and finally see the person standing there. The stage was set for a collision of worlds. The atmosphere in the boardroom was toxic as Patrick faced the biggest business crisis of his career. A massive real estate development was stalled due to a community loophole that his expensive legal team had completely overlooked. The room was filled with high-priced advisors, men in suits who billed by the hour to tell him they were out of ideas. Patrick was pacing like a caged tiger, his TYCOON veneer cracking under the pressure. He was used to being unstoppable, but this situation was a wall he couldn't smash through. The silence of his genius team was deafening, a stark contrast to their usual sycophancy. Madelaine was in the corner, quietly emptying the shredder, trying to make herself as small as possible. She had been listening to their circular arguments for an hour, realizing that their smart versus dumb binary was failing them. They were too book smart to see the street smart solution. The issue wasn't legal, it was human. They were trying to bully a community leader who only wanted respect. Overcoming her fear of being humiliated again, she cleared her throat. The sound froze the room. Patrick turned, his eyes narrowing as he recognized the cleaning girl he had scolded weeks ago. "Excuse me," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "You're trying to buy the land, but you should be buying the legacy." She offered a simple, practical solution: rename the community center after the leader's grandmother instead of offering more cash. It was a solution born of empathy, not economics. The advisors scoffed, rolling their eyes at the underdog, trying to speak firmly. But Patrick stopped. He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time. The idea was simple, elegant, and cost-effective. It was a moment of shocking clarity in a room full of fog. Skeptical but desperate, Patrick made the call right there in front of everyone. He pitched the idea. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Minutes later, he hung up the phone, a look of disbelief on his face. The deal was done. The CEO had been saved not by his Ivy League executives, but by the girl with the mop. It was a massive slice of humble pie, and Patrick had to eat it in front of his entire team. This wasn't just a win, it was a paradigm shift. The true worth of a person, he realized, wasn't written on their diploma. The advisors shuffled their papers, looking uncomfortable, their favoritism for their own credentials exposed as fraud. Patrick dismissed them all, leaving him alone with Madelaine. The dynamic had shifted instantly. He asked her how she knew that would work. She simply shrugged. "I listen. People want to be seen, not bought." It was a lesson in rich man, poor woman diplomacy that he had missed in business school. Destiny had intervened, using Madelaine's intuition to save his empire. This moment marked the beginning of a complex shift. Patrick was intrigued, his arrogance chipped away by gratitude he didn't know how to express. He realized he had misjudged her entirely. It's a powerful thing when the dumb person outwits the room, isn't it? It forces you to question everything you think you know about intelligence. Madelaine had proven that she possessed a kind of genius that couldn't be taught, a raw instinct for human nature. Patrick looked at her with a new expression, curiosity mixed with respect. He realized that this cleaning lady was a dormant asset he had almost thrown away. He wasn't ready to call it partnership, but the door was cracked open. He needed to know if this was a fluke or she was truly a diamond in the rough. But trust is a currency Patrick didn't spend easily. He needed to test her, to see if her integrity matched her intellect. The game was about to change. Intrigued by her insight but paralyzed by his own cynicism, Patrick decided to subject Madelaine to a test of character. He couldn't reconcile that someone so lowly placed could be so sharp without an ulterior motive. In his world, everyone wanted something, so he orchestrated a trap. He left a vintage, incredibly valuable watch of family heirloom conspicuously on the sink of the executive washroom she was scheduled to clean. It was a cruel test, playing on the rich man, poor woman dynamic, dangling life-changing money in front of someone who was struggling to eat. He watched from his office camera, waiting for her to succumb to temptation. Madelaine entered, tired and worn down by the physical labor. She saw the watch immediately. It glinted under the harsh lights, a symbol of the TYCOON lifestyle that was denied to her. For a fleeting second, she must have known that pawning could solve all her immediate problems: rent, food, a new coat. Moral dilemma: be honest. If you were starving and found a fortune that no one would miss, would you take it? It's a question that haunts us, testing the very fabric of our integrity. But Madelaine didn't hesitate. She didn't see a lottery ticket. She saw someone's lost time. She grabbed the watch and ran out to the exit, but to Patrick's assistant. She burst into the office, breathless, terrified that she would be accused of stealing it just for holding it. "Mr. Murray left this," she gasped, handing it over with trembling hands. Patrick, who had been expecting a thief, was left holding his own prejudice. He was shockingly wrong about her. Unlike his sycophantic employees who would have stolen it or used it as leverage, she returned it simply because it wasn't hers. Her true worth shone brighter than the diamonds on the bezel. Patrick felt a pang of regret for doubting her. He walked out his office and met her in the hallway. He didn't say much, but his demeanor had changed from cold CEO to a man humbled. He realized that Madelaine possessed something money couldn't buy: absolute integrity. In a world of sharks, she was a dolphin, intelligent but harmless. This moment was a turning point where karma began to align in her favor. She had passed the test she didn't even know she was taking. The realization hit Patrick hard, as smart advisors would have likely kept the watch, justifying it as a bonus. Madelaine, the failure of her family, had more honor in her little finger than his entire board of directors. It challenged his entire worldview of success story metrics. He looked at her and saw potential, raw and unrefined. He decided then and there that she was wasted on cleaning floors. He wanted to see what else she could do. This wasn't just about a watch, it was about trust. Patrick had built walls around his heart to keep people out, but Madelaine had just walked right through the front gate without even trying. He felt a strange urge to mentor her, to polish the stone he had found. It was the beginning of a mentorship that would defy all social conventions. He offered her a promotion on the spot, not a huge leap, but a step into the office as an assistant. Madelaine was stunned. She didn't know about the test. She just thought she was doing the right thing. It proves that character is what you do when no one is watching, even if, in this case, someone was. The underdog had just secured a seat at the table, and the real education was about to begin. While Madelaine was trading her mop for a notepad, the family drama back home was spiraling into chaos. The smart twin sister, freed from parental oversight at university, was treating her education like a 4-year vacation. She was racking up massive debts, trying to maintain a fake lifestyle to impress rich peers, unaware that intelligence doesn't equal financial literacy. The favoritism that had sheltered her was now drowning her. She was burning through the family's savings, relying on the smart versus dumb label to keep the money flowing, lied to her parents that the expenses were for books and lab fees. In stark contrast, Madelaine was quietly absorbing the complexities of the business world under Patrick's reluctant mentorship. It wasn't a formal schooling, it was a trial by fire. Patrick, the demanding tycoon, threw her into the deep end of spreadsheets and negotiations. He was hard on her, critical and exacting, but for the first time, someone was criticizing her to make her better, not to tear her down. She was learning the ropes of being a CEO by watching the master at work. The rich man, poor woman gap was closing not in wealth, but in competence. Madelaine discovered she had a knack for numbers and a strategic mind that had been suppressed by years of being told she was stupid. She worked late nights, fueled by the desire for vindication and the thrill of competence. Patrick began to rely on her, his cold exterior melting slightly as he saw her dedication. She was becoming his secret weapon, the only person who would tell him the truth. It's amazing how quickly a person can grow when they are finally watered with belief rather than poison. Meanwhile, the twins' life was a house of cards waiting for a breeze. The parents were oblivious, still bragging about their genius daughter while their bank accounts bled dry. The irony was palpable. The investment child was a liability, and the write-off child was becoming a blue-chip asset. Karma was moving slowly but deliberately. Madelaine was building a success story in the shadows, while her sister was building a disaster in the spotlight. Patrick watched Madelaine grow with a mix of pride and confusion. He had never mentored anyone before, he usually just fired them. But Madelaine was different. She absorbed information like a sponge. He found himself explaining complex mergers to her over takeout food, realizing that she asked better questions than his senior VPs. The bond forming between them was strictly professional on the surface, but underneath, a current of heart-touching connection was flowing. He was teaching her business. She was reteaching him humanity. The juxtaposition of the two sisters' trajectories was a lesson in true worth. One had the label but no substance. The other had the substance but no label. Madelaine was proving that grit beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. She was exhausted, yes, but for the first time in her life, she felt useful. She felt powerful. She was no longer the victim of her history, but the architect of her future. But secrets have a way of coming out. As Madelaine grew stronger, the twins' debts grew larger. The collision of these two realities was inevitable. Madelaine was preparing for a life she earned, while her sister was preparing to crash a life she was given. The mentorship was about to be tested by the outside world, and Patrick was about to see just how cruel Madelaine's family could really be. The annual charity gala was a highlight of the social season, a playground for the elite where status was the only currency. Patrick, needing a placeholder date to keep matchmakers at bay, invited Madelaine. It was strictly business, he assured her, but for Madelaine, stepping into that world was terrifying. She wore a simple dress, looking elegant but undeniably out of place among the couture gowns and diamond chokers. The moment they arrived, the shark circled. The socialites, sensing fresh blood, began to whisper and giggle, ridiculing her lack of pedigree. The rich man, poor woman dynamic was on full display, and it was brutal. Patrick, distracted by business talks, didn't initially notice the snobbery directed at her. Madelaine stood alone, clutching her purse, feeling the old humiliated sting of not belonging. A rival tycoon approached Patrick, loudly mocking him for bringing the help to such a prestigious event, attacking Patrick's reputation and judgment. The room went silent. It was a moment designed to crush the underdog, to put her back in her place. Check in one word to describe how you feel for her right now. It's that gut-wrenching feeling of being small in a room full of giants. But Madelaine didn't shrink. Something inside her snapped not in anger, but in clarity. She stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly, but gaining strength with every word. She delivered a heartfelt speech, not defending herself, but defending Patrick. She spoke of his dedication, his hidden integrity, and the hard work that built the empire they were all drinking champagne on. She dismantled the rival's arrogance with a grace that money couldn't buy, exposing the shallowness of the room. It was shocking the mouse had roared. Patrick stared at her, stunned. He was used to people defending his wallet, not his character. Her words cracked his emotional armor wide open. He saw her not as his assistant, but as a force of nature. The room was silenced, shamed by her dignity. In that moment, the smart versus dumb labels dissolved. She was the smartest person in the room because she spoke the truth. It was a heart-touching display of loyalty that Patrick had never experienced in his cold, transactional life. The gala continued, but the dynamic had shifted irrevocably. Patrick stayed close to her for the rest of the night, not as a shield, but as a partner. He looked at the elites with disdain and at Madelaine with newfound admiration. She had faced the lions and tamed them. This was the moment destiny signaled that they were more than just boss and employee. She had saved his pride, and in doing so, she had stolen his heart, though neither would admit it yet. Walking out of the gala, the flashing cameras captured them together, CEO, and a nobody who looked like a queen. The success story was no longer just his. She was writing herself into the narrative. Patrick realized that he didn't care about her pedigree. He cared about her fire. She had proven her true worth on the biggest stage, and the ridicule had backfired, only making her shine brighter. That night, Patrick dropped her off and didn't just drive away. He watched her walk to her door, realizing that he was the one who was lucky to be seen with her. The regret of his past judgment was replaced by a determination to see her fly. He knew she had a dream, and he decided it was time to help her make a reality. The mentorship was over, the partnership was beginning. Seeing the fire in her eyes after the gala, Patrick decided to make a move that would change everything. He knew Madelaine had a small business idea concept for sustainable urban gardening that she had sketched on napkins during her lunch breaks. It was brilliant, scalable, and entirely hers. Instead of just giving her a bonus, Patrick secretly set up a fund for her. He called her into his office, not to give orders, but to hand her a check. "This isn't charity," he told her sternly, masking his affection with business gruffness. "This is an investment. Prove your parents wrong." Madelaine stared at the check, her hands shaking. It was enough to launch her dream. The tycoon was betting on the underdog. It was a shocking gesture of faith from a man who trusted no one. He was challenging her to step out of his shadow and cast her own. This was her chance for vindication, to take the dumb label and smash it into 1,000,000 pieces. The re-engagement hook is here just when everything seems perfect. When a hero gets a sword, you know the monster is about to wake up. Madelaine felt unstoppable, unaware that her ascent was about to attract the ultimate predators. She poured her energy into the business, working double shifts cleaning for Patrick by day, building her empire by night. The fatigue was bone deep, but her spirit was soaring. She was building something that no one could take away from her. Patrick watched from the sidelines, acting as a silent guardian. He saw her transform from a timid girl into a decisive leader. The success story was taking shape, and it was beautiful to watch. But happiness in a family drama is often the calm before the storm. Madelaine's confidence was growing, and with it, her visibility. She was starting to make noise in the local market. She didn't know that her parents were sniffing around, desperate for cash as the twins' debts mounted. Karma was spinning the wheel, bringing the past back to haunt the present. The higher she climbed, the more visible she became to those who wanted to pull her down. Patrick, meanwhile, was falling deeper. He found himself smiling at his phone, checking up on her progress. He was proud of her in a way he had never been proud of anything. He was funding her freedom, even if it meant she might eventually leave him. It was a selfless act, a rare thing for the ruthless CEO. He was learning that true worth comes from empowering others. Madelaine launched her prototype, and it was a hit. She was ecstatic. She felt like she had finally arrived. She rushed to tell Patrick, her face glowing with triumph. They shared a moment of pure, unadulterated joy, a high point that felt infinite. But in the background, shadows were lengthening. The parents had found out where she was, and they weren't coming to apologize. They were coming to collect. The trap was set. The parents and the twin, seeing Madelaine's proximity to the wealthy Patrick Murray, smelled an opportunity. They didn't see a daughter, they saw a payday. The regret they should have felt was replaced by greed. They were about to launch an attack that would target Patrick's deepest insecurities, threatening to destroy everything Madelaine had built. The fall was coming, and it would be brutal. The peace was shattered when the ghost of Madelaine's past materialized in the lobby of Murray Holdings. Her parents and the smart twin reappeared, looking disheveled and desperate, but masking it with feigned concern. They had discovered Madelaine's connection to the wealthy tycoon and realized she was their golden ticket out of debt. But they couldn't just ask for money, they had to control the narrative. So they concocted a lie so vile it was breathtaking. They requested a meeting with Patrick, claiming it was a family emergency regarding their troubled daughter. In Patrick's office, they put on an Oscar-worthy performance of a heartbroken family. They wept fake tears, claiming that Madelaine was a compulsive liar and a thief who had been stealing from him for years to fund her delusions. They produced forged documents, fake bank statements created by the smart twin, showing transfers that never happened. It was a shocking betrayal, a masterclass in family drama manipulation. They painted Madelaine not as the underdog, but as a predator preying on Patrick's kindness. "We just want to save you from her," the mother sobbed, delivering the poison with a mother's touch. The smart versus dumb dynamic was weaponized again. They used their perceived respectability to discredit her. They knew exactly where to hit Patrick's trust issues. They painted Madelaine as a con artist, exactly the kind of person Patrick had spent his life avoiding. It was a revenge born of jealousy. If they couldn't have his money, Madelaine certainly wouldn't enjoy his respect. The cruelty was absolute. They were willing to destroy their daughter's future to cover their own failures. Patrick listened, his face turning to stone. The evidence looked real. The emotions looked real. He felt the old walls slamming back up, the paranoia of the rich man who is always being used. He didn't know that the twin was the one racking up debts. He only saw the concerned parents warning him. The seed of doubt was planted, and it grew instantly into a forest of suspicion. Karma seemed to be sleeping, allowing this injustice to unfold. Madelaine was called into the office, unaware of the ambush. She walked in smiling, only to be met with the icy glare of her parents and the devastating silence of Patrick. She saw the evidence on the desk and gasped. "This isn't true," she pleaded, looking at Patrick. But the parents cut in. "Stop lying, honey. We're here to help you." It was gaslighting on an industrial scale. The humiliated feeling returned, stronger than ever. She was being framed by the people who gave her life. The tragedy was that Madelaine had no proof of her innocence, only her word. And in the face of documents and parental testimony, Her word felt weightless. Patrick looked at her, his eyes searching for the truth but blinded by his own past traumas. He saw a mirror of every person who had ever betrayed him. The destiny that brought them together seemed to be tearing them apart. The parents watched with concealed smirks. They had played their hand perfectly. They expected Patrick to cut her off, and perhaps pay them off to make the problem go away. They were leveraging the smart versus dumb narrative to ensure Madelaine remained the loser. The tension in the room was suffocating. A heart-wrenching scene of a girl standing alone against the world, waiting for the verdict of the one man she trusted. Patrick's reaction was visceral and devastating. His past traumas of betrayal surfaced like jagged rocks, obscuring his judgment. He looked at the forged documents, then at Madelaine's tear-streaked face, and he chose the logic of the balance sheet over the logic of the heart. He believed the parents. In a voice devoid of the warmth that had been growing between them, he harshly fired Madelaine. "I can't have thieves in my company," he said, the words cutting deeper than any knife. He cut her off completely, funding, job, access. It was a brutal rich man, poor woman discard. Madelaine stood there, her world collapsing for the second time. To be rejected by her parents was one thing, to be rejected by Patrick, after everything they had built, was a soul-crushing blow. She didn't scream or fight. She simply looked at him with a profound sadness that should have haunted him. Validation CTA hit, like if this injustice makes your blood boil. She turned and walked out, leaving her key card on the desk, a final echo of the watch she had once returned. The regret was already written on the walls, but Patrick refused to read it. He ordered security to escort her out, treating the woman who had saved his reputation like a common criminal. The parents and twin feigned sorrow, but were internally celebrating their victory. They had successfully neutralized the threat and asserted their dominance. Madelaine was once again the humiliated failure, stripped of her dignity by the tycoon she loved. It was the darkest hour of the underdog, the moment where hope seems entirely extinguished. Patrick sat alone in his office, staring at the empty chair. He felt a hollow victory. He told himself he had dodged a bullet, but he felt like he had been shot. The unstoppable CO was suddenly paralyzed by a silence that felt wrong. He had protected his assets, but he had liquidated his humanity in the process. He didn't realize that by firing Madelaine, he had fired the only person who was actually looking out for him. Madelaine found herself back on the street, the rain once again her only companion. But this time, something was different. She wasn't the scared girl with the suitcase anymore. She had tasted success. She had managed a crisis. She had run a business. The smart versus dumb label didn't stick the same way. She knew who she was, even if Patrick didn't. The pain was excruciating, but it was the pain of a broken heart, not a broken spirit. She refused to go back to her parents. She refused to beg. She took the little cash she had and rented a tiny, run-down room. She was at rock bottom, yes, but she had the blueprints for a ladder. Destiny was testing her resolve one last time. She had to prove that her true worth wasn't dependent on Patrick Moy's wallet or her parents' approval. As Patrick stewed in his misery, convinced he was right, Madelaine was wiping her eyes and opening her notebook. She had a business to run. He had taken his money back, but he couldn't take her ideas. The revenge she planned wasn't to destroy him, but to surpass him. The comeback was going to be legendary. Madelaine hit rock bottom again, living in a cramped apartment that smelled of damp and despair, but this time, she refused to stay down. The safety net was gone, the mentor was gone, but the vision remained. She poured her remaining energy and every last cent into her urban gardening business. She worked with frantic, unstoppable intensity, fueled by the burning desire for vindication. She was determined to succeed without Patrick's help, to prove that the dumb twin was a self-made tycoon in the making. She walked door to door, selling her services to local cafes and homeowners, her hands callous and dirty, her mind sharp. She was the CEO, the janitor, and the marketing department all in one. There were nights she cried herself to sleep, missing Patrick, missing the comfort, but she woke up every morning and chose a grind. The success story was being written in sweat and grit. She was turning her smart versus dumb trauma into a weapon she didn't overthink. She just outworked everyone. Slowly, agonizingly, the tide began to turn. Her designs were unique. her work ethic undeniable. Word of mouth spread. A major city contract came her way a chance to greenify a public park. She took it, terrified but ready. It was the underdog seizing the bone. She executed the project flawlessly, her street-smart solving logistical problems that would have baffled engineers. Her bank account started to grow, not from inheritance or charity, but from pure, unadulterated profit. Meanwhile, Patrick was miserable. His business was fine, but his life was gray. He missed her insight, her quiet strength. He caught himself looking for her in the hallways. The parents had vanished, presumably satisfied with the destruction they caused. Patrick felt a gnawing regret, a suspicion that he had made a colossal mistake, but his pride kept him from digging deeper. He didn't know that just a few miles away, Madelaine was becoming a force to be reckoned with. Madelaine's business exploded. She hired staff treating them with the dignity she was denied. She became a local celebrity, the green queen of the city. She was building an empire on the ashes of her old life. It was a heart-touching journey of resilience. She was proving that true worth is what you build when everything is taken away. She drove past Murray Holdings one day in her own truck, looking up at the glass tower. She didn't feel anger anymore, she felt pity. Patrick was trapped in his golden cage, while she was free. She had found her voice, her purpose, and her power. Karma was preparing the stage for the ultimate reveal. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. The shocking transformation was complete. Madelaine Woody was no longer the disappointment. She was a powerhouse, and she was doing it all while her sister's house of cards was finally, inevitably, catching fire. The collision course was reset, but this time, Madelaine was the one driving the tank. Months passed, and the silence was broken by a scandal that shook the city. Patrick was reading the morning news when a headline froze his blood. Local socialite arrested for massive fraud and embezzlement. It was a smart twin. The police had uncovered a trail of gambling debts, check fraud, and identity theft. The genius sister had been funding her lavish lifestyle by stealing not just from her parents, but from investors. The shocking truth hit Patrick like a physical blow. The parents were implicated for covering it up, their lies exposed to the world. Patrick realized with horror that the evidence against Madelaine had been a projection of the twins' own crimes. The parents had manipulated him, using his trust issues to frame the innocent daughter so they could keep exploiting the guilty one's potential. It was a family drama resolution of the darkest kind. Madelaine had been innocent all along. She was the victim, and he had been the executioner. The regret that washed over him was drowning. He had fired the only honest person in his life based on the lies of con artists. He scrambled to find out what happened to Madelaine. He expected to find her destitute, perhaps begging for her job back. He hired a private investigator, desperate to make amends. The rich man, poor woman dynamic had inverted. He was the one morally bankrupt, and she was the one with the clean slate. Karma had delivered a brutal lesson. Intelligence without integrity is just a sophisticated way to be a criminal. The news reports detailed how the parents were losing everything: their reputation, their savings, their home. The smart twin was facing jail time. The dumb twin was nowhere to be found in the scandal, completely detached from the wreckage. Patrick felt sick. He remembered Madelaine's tearful plea, her look of betrayal. He had failed to test a character. She had passed so easily with the watch. He realized he loved her, not just as an assistant, but as the partner he needed. He had let the best thing in his life walk out the door because he was too arrogant to see the truth. The tycoon was brought to his knees by his own stupidity. He had to find her. He had to beg for forgiveness. He had to fix this. But he underestimated her. When the investigator returned, he didn't bring an address for a shelter. He brought a magazine cover. It was a local business journal. On the cover was Madelaine, looking fierce and radiant, titled "The New Face of Urban Renewal." Patrick stared at the image, his mouth dry. She hadn't just survived, she had surpassed him in the one metric that mattered: resilience. The realization was total. The smart versus dumb myth was dead. Madelaine was a genius of life. Patrick grabbed his coat and ran. He wasn't going to a meeting, he was going to try and salvage his soul. The unstoppable CEO was now the desperate suitor, racing against time to apologize to a woman who no longer needed him. Patrick raced to the address listed for Madelaine's company, Greenwood Solutions. He expected a small storefront, but he pulled up to a bustling, renovated warehouse district that buzzed with activity. Trucks with her logo were coming and going. The scale of her operation was shocking. He walked into the lobby, feeling smaller with every step. He asked for Ms. Woody, and the receptionist told him she was in a meeting. He waited. The great tycoon humbled, sitting on a waiting room chair like an applicant. When Madelaine finally walked out, she looked different. She held herself with authority. She was dressed in a sharp blazer, directing a team of architects. She saw Patrick and stopped. There was no fear in her eyes, only a cool, measured appraisal. Patrick stood up, his words catching in his throat. He tried to apologize, to explain about the twin, the arrest, the realization. "I know," she said calmly. "I saw the news." Her voice was steady, devoid of a need for his validation. Patrick discovered that she had already built a thriving empire on her own. She proved she never needed his money, only his belief, and when he denied her that, she found it in herself. The true worth he was trying to validate was already established. He felt foolish offering her help now. She was a success story. "I didn't need you to save me, Patrick," she said gently. "I just needed you to trust me." It was a dagger to his heart. He looked around her office. It was warm, vibrant, full of life, everything his cold glass tower wasn't. She had built a culture of respect, the very thing he'd failed to give her. The rich man, poor woman gap was gone. They were equals now, perhaps with her even holding the moral high ground. He felt the crushing weight of karma. He had thrown away a diamond because he thought it was glass. He asked if there was any chance for them. Madelaine looked at him, her expression softening just a fraction. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no. She told him she had work to do. It was a dismissal, but not a final one. It was a challenge. If he wanted her, he would have to earn her, not buy her. Patrick left the building feeling devastated but determined. He saw clearly now. The dumb twin was the architect of her own destiny. She had taken the bricks thrown at her and built a castle. He resolved to win her back, not with gifts but with change. He had to become the man she thought he was. As he drove away, he saw a for sale sign on a massive property nearby her parents' house. The foreclosure was public. The final piece of the puzzle was falling into place. Madelaine had seen it too. The family drama was heading for its final showdown. The wheel of fortune had turned a full 180 degrees. The Woody family home, once the fortress of favoritism and exclusion, was put up for foreclosure. The parents were bankrupt, their assets liquidated to pay for the smart twins' legal defense and gambling debts. It was a pathetic end to their arrogance. The house where Madelaine was humiliated and discarded was now just another asset on a bank's list. A public auction was scheduled. The parents were packing their boxes, old and broken, facing the reality of the streets they had once forced their daughter onto. The day of the auction, the atmosphere was grim. Potential buyers circled like vultures. The parents watched from the window, stripped of their pride. Then, a mysterious buyer intervened. A representative made a preemptive, all-cash offer that blew everyone else out of the water. The property was purchased immediately. The identity of the buyer was shielded by an LLC, fueling rumors of TYCOON swooping in. Patrick heard about the sale and assumed the worst, that developers would raise it. He didn't connect the dots yet. He was too busy trying to reform his own company, try to implement the Madelaine standard of integrity. He was trying to be worthy of her. Meanwhile, the parents were terrified. The new owner had sent notice that they would be visiting the property to inspect the acquisition. The inheritance that was supposed to go to the twin was gone. The house was gone. The parents were facing the karma of their choices. They had bet everything on the wrong child and lost it all. The regret was a palpable fog in the empty rooms. They wondered if Madelaine would even care if they died. They had severed the bond so thoroughly. The mystery buyer's arrival was set for the next morning. The parents expected to be evicted instantly. They sat on their packed boxes, waiting for the executioner. It is a shocking twist of fate, isn't it? The power dynamic had completely shifted. The people who held the keys were now the ones begging for shelter. Destiny was arranging the final tableau. The smart versus dumb narrative was about to be buried in the garden of that house. The suspense was high. Who had bought the house? And what did they plan to do with the people inside it? The sun rose on the day of reckoning. A black car pulled up the driveway. The parents held their breath. The door opened. But before the car door opened at the house, Patrick found Madelaine at a quiet park where they used to eat lunch. He couldn't wait any longer. He approached her, stripping away all his tycoon bravado. In a scene that was raw and heart-touching, Patrick publicly apologized. He didn't care who was watching. He got down on one knee not to propose, but to beg for forgiveness. He declared his love and admiration for her resilience, admitting that she was a stronger one, the smarter one, the better one. "I was blind," he said, his voice cracking. "I let my fear dictate my life. You taught me what true worth is." He begged for a second chance, not to be her boss, but to be her partner. He offered her nothing but his heart, stripped of his wealth's protection. It was the act of an underdog in love, fighting for the only thing that mattered. Madelaine listened, tears welling in her eyes. She saw the change in him. She saw the regret and the sincerity. She knew that everyone deserves a chance to grow, even a stubborn CEO. She realized that her vindication wasn't in punishing him, but in healing together. Graciously, with the warmth that defined her, she granted him that chance. She took his hand and pulled him up. "Don't kneel," she said. "Stand by my side." It was a moment of pure catharsis. The rich man, poor woman divide was erased by love. They were just two people who had navigated a maze of lies and come out the other side. Patrick stood proudly by her side, feeling richer than he ever had with his billions. But Madelaine checked her watch. "I have one more thing to do," she said, her eyes flashing with a mix of steel and kindness. "And I want you to come with me." They got into the black car, the same one, heading to her parents' house. Patrick realized then where they were going. He looked at her with awe. She wasn't just a business owner, she was a mysterious buyer. She was a tycoon now. The ride to the house was silent, but heavy with anticipation. Madelaine was returning to the scene of her crime, the crime of being herself. But this time, she held the deed. Destiny had come full circle. She was ready to face her ghosts and lay them to rest. The car pulled up to the Woody residence. The parents, trembling on the porch, watched as Patrick Murray stepped out. They gasped, hope flickering perhaps he was here to save them. But then Patrick opened the other door, and Madelaine stepped out. She looked regal, unstoppable, the very image of success story. The parents stood frozen in shock. Madelaine revealed herself as the buyer. She was a tycoon who had purchased their home. The silence was absolute. The smart versus dumb reality crashed down on the parents. The daughter they called stupid had bought the roof over their heads. The daughter they disowned was the only one with the capacity to save them. The humiliation they felt was total. But Madelaine didn't gloat. She didn't scream. She simply walked up the steps, past the spot where she was kicked out, and looked them in the eye. "You can stay," she said calmly. The parents sobbed, falling to their knees, overwhelmed by her mercy and their own regret. "But," Madelaine added, her voice still, "I set the rules. No more lies. No more favoritism. You live here as my guests." It was the ultimate vindication. She didn't kick them out, she owned them with kindness. She provided for them when they refused to provide for her, proving her true worth was infinite. Patrick stood by her side, beaming with pride. He watched her handle her abusers with grace, achieving revenge that was constructive, not destructive. She had broken the cycle of toxicity. The dumb twin had saved the family. The smart twin was in a cell, and the parents were living in Madelaine's house. The story ended not with a bang, but with a balance restored. Madelaine turned to Patrick, and they shared a look of deep understanding. They had both survived the fire. She was a tycoon of her own life, and he was a lucky man who got to witness it. Karma had been served, and it tasted like justice. As they walked away from the house, hand in hand, the sun broke through the clouds. The underdog had won the championship. The rich man had found a heart. And the family drama was finally over, replaced by a legacy of resilience. Madelaine Woody had rewritten her ending, and it was perfect. Madelaine's journey teaches us a shivering truth: your value is never defined by someone else's opinion, not even your parents. While they invested in a hollow label of intelligence, she invested in the unshakable currency of her own character, proving that the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it is wild, undeniable success handled with grace. If you also believe that resilience is the ultimate superpower and that the underdog always has the sharpest teeth, then you have found your home. Subscribe right now and join a community that celebrates the triumph of the human spirit over adversity. Let's make some noise for justice. Like this video as a salute to Madelaine's courage to forgive. Comment below with your honest take if you were in her shoes, standing on that porch with the deed in your hand. Would you have let the parents stay? Or would you have kicked them out? I want to read your thoughts. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that their current struggle is just a chapter, not the whole book. And while you are here, don't let the inspiration stop. Our channel is a hidden treasure chest of emotional journeys. Just like this one, dive into our older videos and discover more stories that will touch your soul. But don't get too comfortable, because we are already crafting the next incredible narrative. Activate that notification bell so you are the first to know when the next wave of emotion hits. Trust me, you won't want to be left out of what is coming next.